Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show, where we get to the heart of why you overeat and how to stop. If you struggle with food and weight like I did, welcome home. Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show. So happy to have you here. Thanks for joining me today. And today I've got a great topic because, as you've probably heard me say before, if you've been here before, or if not, you're going to hear me say it today. Food is not the issue. Your problem goes way beyond what you put in your mouth. And so many of the issues that cause us to eat are of our own making. So today I'm going to talk about that. And one of these problems is being a busybody. So do you have busybody issues? Chances are you do. It's very typical for emotional eaters to get into other people's business. And we might do it in a perfectly innocent and in really helpful way as far as we're concerned. But nevertheless, our busybody issues are causing us stress that drives us to the kitchen. Okay, so this is really important to tune into. Very important. This is a hidden cause of emotional eating that most people miss, and I don't want you to miss it because it's sabotaging you time and time again. So you got to tune in to your busybody issues. Now, many years ago, Roy and I were working with a client whose father had a saying that she brought up now and then, and we loved it and we adopted it. And that saying is, "I don't have a nickel in that quarter." Now, what this means is that whatever's going on, if it has nothing to do with me, I don't have a nickel in that quarter and I need to leave it alone, okay? And emotional eaters, because we're caretakers, because we are, trying to be helpful, because we've got our antenna out for people in need, because that's our nature, we end up getting involved in all kinds of things we have no business being involved in. And the problem with this is we create stress and chaos in our lives on account of it. And then we're overburdened, we're overworked, we're stressed out, we feel like everybody's tugging at us, and we go into victim mode, like life is just too much, I can't take it all, and we comfort ourselves with food. So this is the pattern, and yet we get into this pattern ourselves. We step right into the trap by being busybodies, okay? By assuming we have a nickel in every quarter around us. And that's simply not the case. And I want to bring your attention to this because when you start to really wake up and see all the times you're stepping into situations that have nothing to do with you, then you can make different choices, and then you can lower your stress and you can lower really your cravings, because cravings come from how we're living. So much of the time people think cravings just happen. No, they don't just happen. They are an outgrowth of the way we're living, which is usually in too much stress. Okay, we have stress and chaos in our lives. And then we're like, I gotta eat. I need something to snack on. I need something sweet. All these cravings, they don't just happen. Okay, that's the biggest myth out there in the weight loss world, is that cravings strike us. They just hit us like a lightning bolt. And that is not true. We create our cravings 9 times out of 10 because of the way we're living and because of the stressful situations we create in our lives. So I really, really, really hope you hear me today, because this is powerful information that can be a real game changer for you. So as caretakers, as people who take on other people's problems because we're caretakers, as people who really are looking for a distraction from our own lives and our feelings, this is how we get into these messes. As emotional eaters, we don't want to feel, and we like being busy, and we like being distracted from our own feelings, from our own reality and what's going on inside of us. And so we look for distractions, and helping others, and which is how we see it, but really being busybodies is what it really is, keeps us distracted from ourselves. And so it works great, okay? I mean, this is a good way. If you want to get away from yourself, just involve yourself in everybody else's business, okay? You won't have a second ever to feel anything. Now, if you want to overcome overeating and emotional eating, then you're going to have to dial it back, okay? Then you're going to have to say no once in a while and sidestep the trap of getting involved in things that aren't yours. And there's another way to put it, which I think is great. And actually, there's a couple other ways I'm going to mention. The best one I'm going to save for last. But another way of saying or of describing this tendency and this compulsion to get involved where we don't belong is not my monkey, not my circus, okay? And this is something a friend of mine mentioned, which I just love. Not my monkey, not my circus. And the point is, there are circuses going on all around us. Other people's drama is happening around us. And we have a choice of whether we step into their drama or not. And as emotional eaters, we tend to, and we do it unconsciously, and we do it thinking we're helping. But the truth is that we're hurting oftentimes, and we're certainly hurting ourselves. We may help somebody else now and then, but if it hurts us, it's not good for anybody. And it does hurt us because we get stressed out. We get, we hurt other people's feelings. Other people hurt our feelings. Maybe they didn't want us to butt in, and we did, thinking we're being helpful. And then they're pissed off, and then we're afraid because they're mad at us, And so we've created this chaos, this storm around us that creates all these uncomfortable, stressful feelings that we placate with food. Why do we do this? Okay, why do we take on other people's issues? Why do we get involved where we don't belong? Well, I already mentioned about distracting ourselves. I already mentioned about the tendency to want to caretake and jump in and really rescue people. But there are a few others. And that has to do with our egos, okay? So it makes us feel important when we help out, when we step in and save the day, when we think that we've got something to offer and we jump in and we take over. That's our egos, okay? Our ego is telling us that we know better, that we're smarter, that we have the power to save the day, or the intelligence, or the wherewithal, whatever it is. We're coming from a place of ego when we want to rescue other people and we step into their drama. It doesn't mean we're bad. It just means we're misguided and we think we're being helpful when in fact our egos are involved, okay? And I want you to be aware of that. It makes us feel important to save the day, right? It makes us feel important to be the one to come in and make everything better. But at what price, okay? And that's really where I want you to start waking up. I want you to start realizing that there's a price for these actions. We all pay a price. And when you step into other people's drama, when you take over, when you try to save the day and be Wonder Woman and the hero or the shero, when you do that, you're adding stress in your life, and then you're overeating over that stress. So is it worth it? Is that ego hit that you get from stepping in and having everybody say how wonderful it was that you helped out or that you saved the day? Oh, we love to hear that, don't we? Yes, we do. That just feeds our little ego, and it feels good, and it feels like we're filling ourselves with self-esteem when really it's just a cheap hit, a cheap ego hit. That costs us. And sooner or later, you're going to, hopefully, if you stick with me here, you're going to see that, these decisions that you make in your life on account of ego are costing you dearly. I'd rather sidestep the trap of getting involved in somebody's drama and not have to pay the price with having cravings later that I either have to fight to resist or give into. So that's another reason why we do it, is because of ego, and arrogance. Frankly, we think we know better. We think we can do a better job than anybody else. We're afraid to hand over the reins. This is another problem. Emotional eaters are control freaks. So we're afraid to say, okay, you go ahead and take care of this. I'll bow out. We're afraid, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you're running your own business. It's so hard for entrepreneurs to let go and let other people take responsibility. We're so afraid that nobody can do it as good and as well as we can. And so we hold onto the reins. We do everything in our business. We're afraid to delegate because nobody's got the talent or the know-how or the experience that we have. And that may be true, but if you don't want to overeat, if you don't want to be stress eating at the end of the day, at the end of every workday, you're going to have to delegate and you're going to have to share the responsibility because it's simply too much. And you're paying a price for doing it all yourself. So these are some of the reasons why we meddle, and also just out of fear. We're afraid it's not going to work out if we don't step in and take over. So decide, is the price you're paying for being stressed out and involved in everybody's business worth it? If you don't want to overeat, I'd say it's not worth it. If the price you're paying is overeating and gaining weight and not fitting into your pants and feeling gross, and feeling embarrassed, if that's the price you're paying, reconsider, okay? It's not worth it, and so, and it's not worth, the chaos that ensues. Oftentimes we lose relationships over our meddling and being busybodies. Now, there's other ways to be busybodies. I mean, there's gossiping and getting involved in people's business that way, and that's equally destructive to us. We feel guilty when we gossip. We feel guilty when we, ask questions. I mean, I have to watch myself. Sometimes I'll have that sort of curiosity about a person's situation, and I'll want to ask somebody, how's so-and-so doing? But I catch myself usually when I realize that there's no reason for me to ask that question. Like, I'm asking simply because I want to hear about the mess they've created. I want to get into that catty conversation of, oh, so-and-so isn't doing so well because they screwed this up or they made this mistake or whatever. And there's that little part of me, that little catty part of me that wants to have a conversation about somebody else so I can feel superior. Well, that makes me feel bad. And so I will usually catch myself when I find myself wanting to know about something that has nothing to do with me. This is another way of being a busybody. I ask questions about somebody or a situation simply because I want to hear some bad news that makes me feel like I'm better than. Okay, that's going to make me feel bad, and that can drive me to the refrigerator if I do it for long enough. That guilt can drive me to punish myself with food. Okay, so there's many ways of being a busybody, and they all lead to the refrigerator. If you're feeling like a martyr in your life, this is a good way to catch whether you're being a busybody. If you feel like a martyr, like your hand is on your forehead and you're feeling like, woe is me, it all falls on me, and I'm so burdened, and nobody's helping me. If you find yourself thinking those very martyry thoughts, ask yourself the tough question, who got me into this situation? How did I get here? And if you dial it back, if you sort of deconstruct the situation, you'll realize that you got yourself into that situation. If you're dealing with somebody very stressful, oftentimes you put yourself there. You wanted to be close to somebody, or you wanted to be involved in a situation because of what you were going to get out of it. And all of a sudden it blows up and it's chaos and dramatic and it's stressing you out. But if you look back, you see that you volunteered for that situation. And so I just want you to just be aware of that and take a look. Other ways to be a busybody, taking home stranded pets. We're rescuers. We're rescuers. We identify with the victim. So when there's a stray pet, we say, oh, and it pulls at our heartstrings, and it helps us connect to that victim part of us when we might have been abused at some point or abandoned at some point, and we take that pet home. Well, we don't always think about what kind of stress we're adding to our lives when we take home a stranded pet. Do you want that stress in your life? And are you okay with the price you're paying, with that extra mouth to feed, that extra body to take care of, that extra, animal that needs to be taken for a walk? Just think about the stress you're adding in your life and whether you can afford that. Because I can't. I have to be very careful about the stress in my life. And for that reason, I've been really good. I've become good at saying, not my nickel, not my quarter, not my circus, not my monkey. Another way that we're busybodies is we do our kids' homework way beyond what we should, okay? I don't even understand doing kids' homework, frankly. My parents never did my homework. They helped me now and then, but the world has changed, and I can't get over how much more involved parents are in their kids' work, and I don't think it's a good thing. I had to kind of struggle through and be responsible for the results. And nowadays, kids are so involved in their kids' homework. And, the question is, are you doing too much? I mean, are you doing more than your fair share? Are you doing more than you should? Are you robbing your kid of their opportunity to grow and struggle and learn the consequences of not doing their work or not doing it well enough? That's a good way to be a busybody. Offering a situation that comes up sometimes for me is I want to connect to people, or I want to get some information from one person for another person. And I catch myself when I'm about to say, I'll find out and get back to you, when I could just as easily connect the two by email. Right? I connect the two and say, hey, Sally has this need and Joe has this, product can help with that need, or this service that helps with that need. I'll let you two take it from here. A great way to bow out of stress that you don't need to be involved in. And is it stressful to say, I'll take care of it? Yeah. I mean, it may seem like not a big deal, but again, these little things add up. If I'm having to keep on my mind, getting back to Sally because I talked to Joe, that's one more thing on my plate. I don't need that stress. So I'd rather connect Sally and Joe and bow out. Okay. And these are subtle, but these all add up to stress that we can stress eat over. Volunteering to throw a party for somebody. That's a big commitment. You should think well and hard before you make that commitment. It's so easy for us to want to, do the things that make us look good, that make us feel good too, that serve other people. But at what price? So before taking on a commitment to throw a party or to have a party or whatever, I never do that lightly. I never just say, let's do it, because I have to really weigh the stress of it and whether I can add that to my life. These are considerations you don't need to make. Again, let me qualify. You do not need to consider these things if you don't mind overeating. But if you do mind overeating, if you want different results in your life, you've got to start recognizing, not my monkey, not my circus. And it might be hard for you to not volunteer to do something. And I urge you to push through that uncomfortable feeling when somebody has a need and it's going to tax you and your time and your energy. I urge you to sit on your hands and let somebody else volunteer, because we are usually the first ones to volunteer because we're so uncomfortable with that silence. When somebody asks a question and somebody needs to volunteer, we're usually that somebody. And I urge you to just count to 5, count to 10, let somebody else volunteer, because they will. We don't have to be the one always to say yes to that additional project or event. Okay? And it's just overall, taking on other people's problems is, creating stress within us that we stress eat over. So you need to really measure how much helping you're going to do. And this may seem like I'm suggesting you just become selfish, and self-involved. And it's not. This is a balance you need to strike. I'm very helpful to other people, but not overly helpful, because I have to help myself first. This is about putting your oxygen mask first on the plane. How are you going to be of service to other people if you're in the food constantly? If you're eating sugar and carbs and other things you don't want to eat because you're stressed out because you've said yes to too many things? How can you truly be of service that way? When you're hating yourself for your food decisions, when you're hating yourself for not fitting into your pants, you're dimming your own light, and you can't be there for other people truly with your whole heart when you're in that situation. And you create that situation by doing too much. So yeah, you got to get a little selfish. You bet. You bet you do. You have to say no. You have to, pass on volunteering. You have to, sit on your hands and let somebody else pick up the slack, because they will. You're not that important. Sorry, You're just not that important. Somebody else will do the job. The job will get done, and we tend to have that Messiah complex where we think only we can do the job. Only we can do it as well, as we can. Nobody else can match that. And that's just not true. So you want to hear the last saying? I've already covered, I don't have a nickel in that quarter. And that's one you can say when you're tempted. Another one you can say is not my monkey, not my circus. Well, a friend of mine who's from Texas visited and came home, said, Tricia, I got another good one for you. She's like, I heard this down in Dallas, and it's not my pig, not my shit. Not my pig, not my shit. So that's another one if you want to get real serious about reminding yourself to mind your own business. Okay. Don't have busybody issues. You got to let them go. It's time to take care of yourself. It's time to, as my husband would say, tend to your own rat killing, not somebody else's. Tend to your own rat killing, and focus on self-care and healing. And from that place of healing, you can then give. But when you're doing it from an empty well, you're going to have troubles and you're going to be looking for a quick fix to help fill you up. So I hope this helps. Please share this with anybody you know, especially the people with busybody issues. Please share this. This is something that people aren't talking about, and this is absolutely critical for successful weight loss and freedom from emotional eating. So I hope it's helped. Please leave a review on iTunes. I would sure appreciate that. And again, share it with others so they too can get over their busybody issues. Thanks so much and have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you on the next show.
If you enjoyed this show and want to get free support, insider health info, exclusive invites to events, and more, visit healyourhunger.com.